I know you've done an article on the NFL draft for running backs. Let's go through a couple of the guys. So you had Trey Benson from Florida State, 1, Jonathan Brooks from Texas, number 2. Let's talk a little bit about those two.
Yeah, Benson to me is the best guy. Is certainly is the best back in this draft. He's got good size, 223 pounds, speed, kind of the complete things you're looking for in a bell cow running back. And obviously put up, good numbers, 900 plus yards this season. He shows he has a penchant has an ability to catch the ball out the backfield. And what's really gotten better about him is his ability to kind of read what's in front of him and, hit the hole with authority as opposed to just trying to kind of run straight for what's available, is kind of letting the play develop in front of you. And that seems like something that Benson's kind of been better at throughout his career. And going on to number 2, Jonathan Brooks from Texas really stepped up this year after Bijan Robinson went 8th overall to the Falcons in the draft. I mean, you look at his numbers, 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns. And this is on a Texas team that we're going to talk a lot about their skill players for the next few months because, they've got a pair of receivers who should go in the first 2 rounds, Adonai Mitchell and Xavier Worthy. They have a tight end, Jatavian Sanders. They have 2 elite defensive tackles in Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat. But Jonathan Brooks, I think, has a lot of exciting tools, vision, patience, and those, I think, are 2 big things. And, you combine that with his speed and contact balance, you can really do a lot of things with him. What's going to hurt him is he tore his ACL in November. So if you're going to draft him, you got to kind of be prepared to know that you're might not have him for training camp. You might not have him until September. We saw that that didn't stop the Detroit Lions from drafting Jameson Williams in 2022. And we saw in the NFC Championship game the type of player that Jameson Williams can be. So I think Brooks has the ability to be as good as any back in this class. You just have to be willing to wait a little bit longer than some of these other backs for the return on investment.
All right, 3 and 4 in your list. You got Blake Corum from Michigan, Audric Estime from Notre Dame, and then your 5th for the top 5 is Bucky Irving from Oregon. Take us through those 3.
Well, let's start with Blake Corum, number 3. Everybody in Ohio knows about Blake Corum. They've seen him play against Ohio State for years. Really just a very fluid runner who is just extremely tough. There's no question about it. Not a guy who's going to necessarily run away from people, but he's always going to find the ability to create space for himself. He's got good power at 213 pounds. Even he may be short at 5'8", but I actually think that kind of helps him a little bit because when you're short and you want to create leverage, the old saying "low man wins" kind of applies in this instance to Blake Corum. My concern with him, more than anything, would be just he has had a lot of wear and tear the last couple of seasons at Michigan. Even last season, 258 carries. That is a lot for any running back coming into the NFL. So you wonder what kind of what kind of ceiling he has. He seems like a high floor back who will be a safe pick, but you wonder, are you going to go for a safer player early, or are you going to take a player with a higher upside? I think that might be the question when it comes to Blake Corum. Number 4, Audric Estime. I made no secret he's one of my guys in this draft. I think there's a lot of David Montgomery to his game. He's not a guy that's going to run away from people, but he's got very good size, 227 pounds. Makes a lot of people miss. Breaks off a lot of chunk runs, and even 1,300 yards at Notre Dame for a Notre Dame team that ran the football a lot. He always seems to find ways to gain positive yards. And when you have a running back then get 10 to 15 yards, on one of every 8 or 9 carries or something like that, that is a great thing to have. Again, he may never be an elite number 1 running back, but again, how many teams would turn down a David Montgomery? You saw the kind of impact he had for the Detroit Lions last season, that tandem with Jahmyr Gibbs. And number 5, Bucky Irving. He is the one guy who is different out of the bunch. I've talked a lot about, bigger running backs, 200-plus pound backs. Bucky Irving, 5'10", 195 pounds. And honestly, he might have a lot of Devon Achane to thank for some of the draft stock around him. I'm not saying that Bucky Irving is as fast as Devon Achane. Remember, Devon Achane was a track star at Texas A&M before he really burst onto the scene. But I think Irving, he's plenty fast, but he's also extremely fluid. He can change directions. He's not going to lose a lot of speed when he changes directions. And, 1,180 yards last season on 186 carries, able to rip some big runs as well. And also quite productive out of the backfield, 56 catches, 413 yards. I think he'd be quite a change up to what the Browns have with Jerome Ford, who's known more for size, but he has some power to him. You want to add a speed threat. I think that's an interesting way to go. You look at, for example, what Jahmyr Gibbs has meant to the Detroit Lions, what Keaton Mitchell did for the Baltimore Ravens before before he was lost for the season, what Achan has meant for the Dolphins. I think a speed element out of the backfield would certainly be an interesting way to go. Like I said, I really like Audric Estime, but I feel like when it comes to best fit of those five, if it's between those two guys, Irving feels like a slightly better fit to me.